Welcome to Dare a New Belief, a place to discover what is possible for your life after the loss of a loved one, and where you will find inspiration, insight, support, and love, and hopefully a bit of laughter to help you through your day. Now, here's your host, Nada Hogan.
Welcome to Dare a New Belief, where you will find light and life, love and joy, healing, faith, and hope. A place where you get to believe in what is possible for your life. And today I have the great honor to be with Susy Markoe Schieffelin of the Copper Vessel, which is a Los Angeles-based. She is from Los Angeles, and she is a sound healer. She is a Reiki master, a Kundalini yoga teacher, and a sobriety coach. Susy graduated with a degree in East Asian Studies and Religious Studies from the University of Virginia. Being inspired by her own healing journey, Susy uses these modalities to help others transform their lives and find healing from within. She is vocal about her path to sobriety and her journey with alopecia. She is a speaker and a thought leader, encouraging people to build healthy, happy, radiant lives through self-love. Susy leads deeply restorative crystal alchemy sound bath ceremonies, healing rituals, group trainings, international retreats, and workshops. She also offers a variety of virtual experiences, including a series of virtual sound baths for self-healing on ALO Moves. Oh, Susy, I am so grateful to have you here with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such a joy to be with you, and I'm so excited to chat.
Oh, me too. Me too. I mean, you have a list, and there's so many things on here that you do that it's just like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I want to start from the beginning when I met you, because I met you when you and Geraldine Glass were teaching level 1 in the Alchemy Crystal Singing Bowls. And I took that course in LA, November, I guess, of 2019. And that's when I had the great honor to meet you and get to know you a little bit. But I didn't know you well enough, but you definitely piqued my interest. And I got to do a sound bath with you, and it was so, profound. It's one of those things where you don't really get to, you can't name it. It's an experience, and you just have to feel that experience. So I would love to start with you just from the beginning on you. How is it? Because one of the things that you do is you are a sobriety coach. And that caught my attention because that I never even knew there was a such thing. And there's so many people that need your services. So can we dive in from there, from the beginning, and how is it that you became the Susy that you are right now?
Yes, absolutely. So the way that I became the Susy that I am today, the services and the teachings and the work that I get to share, all stemmed from my own healing journey. As a very young girl, when I was about 7 years old, I started losing my hair. I experienced a condition called alopecia areata, and I started to get these bald spots. And it just brought me to this place at a very young age of feeling incredibly self-conscious, so much self-judgment, just this fear of rejection, where I really had such a hard time feeling comfortable being myself. In my early teens, as many teens do, I started to explore, alcohol and recreational drugs.
Yeah.
And they became this solution for me, where for so many years at that point, like I think I started experimenting when I was around 14, 12, 13, 14, 15, around that. It was like after years of my mind just being so loud and me constantly wondering, like, am I good enough? Am I going to fit in? Am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to do the wrong thing? I could have a drink, and before long my mind would get quiet and I would relax a little bit, and it was like this whole different side of me could come out. And so drinking alcohol became my solution until it wasn't, because I would start drinking and I wasn't really able to stop. On the outside, I mean, it probably looked to most people like, you know, a high schooler partying or a college girl partying, but, you know, I would have 3, 5, 7, 10, 15 drinks, and then I would black out. I wouldn't know what I said. I wouldn't know what I did. I would wake up not knowing how I got home in my bed. And it became very scary. So that continued. You know, I went to, as you mentioned in the intro, I went to University of Virginia, which is a wonderful, incredible school, and also a school that was very much a party school. And I was involved in the sorority fraternity scene. And on the outside, I probably didn't look that much wilder than the other people who were involved in that Greek life. It was very much the culture, but it really wasn't serving me, because the reason why I was reaching for, you know, the alcohol and the drugs, whether it was pot or whatever, was to escape from my mind and from all of that self-loathing that I experienced, that I can now look back and see really began when I was young and I started losing my hair. So when I graduated from UVA, I moved to New York City and went to culinary school and got into this very fast-paced New York City lifestyle where I very quickly identified that, oh, what I'm experiencing is anxiety. You know, I was having a lot of anxiety. My mind was constantly going. So I added prescription pills to the cocktail of things that I was using to quiet my mind. And that became very dangerous very quickly. And I started to, you know, pass out in bars or taxi cabs and wake up in the hospital. And thank God I had no, you know, legal consequences and no long-lasting physical harm other than bumps and bruises and lost cell phones and damaged relationships. But I was also damaging my soul, you know?
Right.
I became so very lost and so disconnected from any sense of my true self that I had when I was a little girl. So in my late 20s, when I was 27, I had been trying for, at that point, 3-4 years to stop drinking, because I knew that it wasn't working. Like, my family knew it wasn't working, and, you know, it was starting to get really scary. And I tried to stop. I went to therapy. I did outpatient treatment programs. I went to a couple of AA meetings, but I wasn't really into that at that time. And, you know, I just could not break free of the cycle. I was really getting into a dark place. And that dark place ended up looking like me at 27 years old, living in New York City with a great job, you know, on the outside, all the right things, you know, beautiful clothing, wonderful friends, all of that. But on the inside, just feeling so lost and so miserable and so disconnected that I no longer wanted to live. And and so there was one night where I got to that point, and thank God I miraculously woke up the next morning. And when I did wake up, it was like, okay, Susie, what are you going to do? I just heard this voice in my head that was like, Susie, wake up and live. Like, stop choosing to move towards death and start choosing life. So for the first time, I really said that day, I surrender. And I went to rehab. I took time off work and I went to a 30-day inpatient treatment program. And in that program, I began to connect with a number of things that ended up completely changing my life. They had music therapy. I wasn't working with crystal bowls in there, but, you know, I started to consciously listen to music, and I started to use my voice for sound healing. I got to experience Reiki. I had a consistent meditation practice. We practiced yoga, and I began a daily gratitude practice. And all of that started to open up a whole new way of being for me. The gratitude, I would say, was one of the biggest activators, because I started to, not immediately, but after every day, every night we would go around and share what we were grateful for that day. After a couple of weeks of doing that, I started to see like my life actually wasn't that bad, and it certainly wasn't a life that like I would need to escape from. So I started to see that, the healing needed to come from within, and that everything in life had really been happening for me to guide me to that point. It hadn't been happening to me. And that started to open up this whole new way of life. And so I didn't get fully sober after that. I got clean in that rehab experience from drugs and alcohol, and I came out and I smoked pot because I was convinced that, it was only alcohol that was my problem. When now looking back, I can see, it was still that, inability to stop like selling my soul, trading that away for, at that point it became to fit in, because I still had friends who were like, let's just do this. But a year later, after a year of consistently practicing gratitude and meditation and yoga, a lot had opened up for me, and I felt guided. I felt called to move to Los Angeles. And in the process of moving across the country, because I was at that point working in New York City, commuting into the city from Greenwich, Connecticut, living with my parents, trying to like rebuild my life. I was still experiencing a lot of anxiety. Like my solution had been taken away. The drugs and alcohol were no longer there, but I was still feeling, pretty anxious, and sometimes having panic attacks every day. Like it was quite intense when I was moving here. Wow. And in the process of moving, my aunt said, Susy, why don't you come with me to a sound bath? And I didn't even ask her what that was, which is so funny, because now that this is what I share for several years, so many people are like, what's a sound bath? Is there water involved? I'm sure you get the same question when you're trying to tell them about it. You're like,
right.
Why did you get naked? I'm like, no. Yeah. But I didn't ask any of those questions. I was just like, yes. It was like I knew I needed to go. And in that experience, I really felt for the first time this deep coming home to myself. And that opened up so much more. I ended up then becoming willing to get involved in a 12-step program. I ended up continuing to go to sound baths and deepening in my meditation practices, getting weekly Reiki healings until I became initiated as a Reiki practitioner and then a Reiki master. I took yoga teacher trainings and started to notice that my life was transforming in every possible way, like beyond my wildest dreams. And in a way that was also different than many of the people around me who were getting sober or who had been sober for a long time, who felt like trapped by this label, like I'm an alcoholic or I'm sick, or I have a problem, I have a disease, which at the beginning of a journey into sobriety, like it's definitely important to have that idea of powerlessness and surrender, and working the 12 steps have helped me so much. It's laid this incredible foundation. Yeah. But what I began to notice was that upon that foundation, I was able to really build something special based on a life of freedom and light and healing and love, and say, like, I don't have to stay sick. Like, I can live a life of infinite possibilities. Right. And these are the tools that really got me there. And so I just started sharing those tools, and that's what I share when I work with clients who are in recovery or trying to get into recovery. I know what it's like for it to take a long time and not to stick. Like, it's not necessarily something that happens overnight, but these subtle shifts. And for me, the sound, like literally shifting out of the frequency of addiction, working with the crystal bowls helped me to do that.